and welcome back to spiderworking.com's video blog. And this week, as promised, I'm in Carlow Educate Together School talking to Principal Simon Lewis. Hello Simon.
Hi there.
So tell me about your role in Carlow Educate Together.
Sure. Well, I'm the principal of Carlow Educate Together National School. We opened in September 2008 after 3 years of campaigning to get an Educate Together school in Carlow town. There's 60 Educate Together schools around the country, so we've about 130 children in the school, and every year we're growing and growing, and the aim within about 5 or 10 years is to reach our capacity, which would be about 500 children.
And you're using social media quite innovatively. How did that start?
My background is in computer science. I did my degree in UCD back in 1997 till 2001, and I graduated just in time for the dot-com bubble to burst. And my girlfriend, who's now my wife, was working in a school, and at the time there was a huge shortage of teachers. On the 1st of September I got a call from Roz, and she said, she asked me would I like to try out teaching because someone hadn't shown up for work there, and the principal was going nuts just looking for someone. And as time's gone on, I mean, I suppose really in the last 3 or 4 years, technology and the social media end of technology started to drip into education. I do a lot of talks around the country about how we use social media in our school, and other schools are starting to kind of start that journey now.
And you're using social media quite innovatively. How did that start?
In our school in particular, I suppose social networks, I mean, we do use Facebook and Twitter. We're starting to use Google Plus now, but anything that's kind of available, we'll see if it has any sort of link towards education. We'll try and use it in some way. So with Facebook, we find that really, really good for communicating with parents. Most of our parents would have a Facebook account. I mean, I'd say 50% anyway, and we find that they log on to their Facebook account more often than they would log onto our own website. So why not bring the school website to their Facebook account, which they're checking every day? So we would post kind of bits of news, our RSS feed from our school website, links. I think we use RSS Graffiti to link it up to Facebook, and basically parents can then interact with us on Facebook, and we find that very, very useful. Particularly that like button helps us a lot, because if we're doing something that they like, it means we should do more of that, because that's...
So one thing I think would have a lot of business people very jealous is the way that you're able to generate so much content from within the school. You're actually able to get your teachers to produce content for you. So how are you achieving that?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it wasn't that difficult, just because something like WordPress is a great tool for multiple authors. You don't, and also the fact that you don't need any technical skills really to update the website. Back in the olden days, when I used to create websites for my previous schools, I was the one having to update everything, because I was the only one who knew how to use FTP. I was the only one who knew how to do the HTML and everything else. So the advantage of WordPress is that you don't need to know any of that, and anyone can get an account on your website, log in and put up a post, and all they need to know is how to type and maybe how to upload a picture, which is fairly straightforward. So what we just did was we had a staff meeting and just agreed what would be a kind of a reasonable amount of content to put up per month, and everyone agreed that 1 post per month would be a fairly reasonable target to be able to reach, just posting something that was happening in their classroom, and pretty much everyone bought into that. And as I said, we have 17 members of staff, and even if 50% of them post something up once a month, that's 9 articles each month, which is 2 a week, which is I think is more than enough of enough content, like to make the website stay dynamic.
Okay, and I know one of the things you're doing, when I was doing my research, is you're using hashtags as a way within Twitter, both for children to communicate on specific projects. I think I was looking at Science Week one, and also for yourself to communicate with other teachers. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've done a few kind of things on Twitter with the school. Now we've had to be kind of careful on the offset with Twitter, because you have to be 13 to use it. So generally what we have is we have a school Twitter account, and teachers can set up kind of class accounts. So we started off with the geography project, where we asked classes, where are you from? Tell us one exciting thing about your area, and just tweet it with a hashtag. And I mean, this was the very first one we did, and it went very well. We had about 30 schools tweeting about it, and it was great. We moved on to an art project then, where we looked at a painting, the most valuable painting in the world, and we asked the question, is it worth $46 million or whatever it was? And again, we had lots of conversations about it. Then the science one came at Science Week, and I just kind of decided I'd run something in conjunction there during Science Week where people could share their experiments or share the things they were doing during Science Week, just to kind of have an alternative way for schools to show what was happening. And it just, again, 30-40 schools got on board, and they might say, we're currently doing an experiment on heat, the hashtag Twitter Science Week or something, you know, whatever the hashtag was at the time. And we've moved on, I mean, again, we did a great thing called Digital Art Week, where via Twitter we got loads of schools around to upload pictures to a shared Flickr album, and tell us all about the drawings that they were doing, using the hashtag again. It was TAP 2011 was the hashtag we used in that case, and it did really, really well. I mean, we have the National Children's Gallery, who I hadn't heard about before the project, getting in touch with us to see if they could get involved. Aigsha and Carlow said they were interested in getting involved for next year. So it's these small things that just, I don't know, Twitter just, without Twitter it wouldn't have happened, you know. I mean, it would have been a small project and no one really would have looked at it, but with things like social networks it sort of expanded it out into a more a wider audience.
One of the really cool things I think you're doing is the use of an online absence form and online notice board. So can you tell me a bit more about that?
The online absence though was an idea to help parents communicate to their teachers if their child was absent from school any particular day. By law, parents have to send a written explanation for when their child is absent. So essentially what I did was create a form in Google Apps. It's really simple to do. The parents just have to put in their own name, their child's name, why they're sick, and how long they'll be out for, and they submit that, and it comes to the school. I mean, it's very difficult to get written notes from parents, to be honest with you, as much as you try. But the online kind of absent note helped us increase the amount of notes we were getting, and I'd say about a quarter of our notes now come through that medium, which is great. The second thing of the online notice board, most staff rooms in schools would have a white magnetic board where notes are put on every so often, and there's a general kind of unwritten hierarchy with them. I mean, that only certain people tend to write messages up, and people, for whatever reason, either are embarrassed to put something up, or they don't feel they have the right to put something up, or whatever it is. So what we did was we just got rid of the staff room notice board and used an online version, which is just part of Google Apps. It's just an online message board, it's called, and people can just post up whatever message they want, in very much the same way they would on a whiteboard. What we didn't realise when we started this is it has much more power than we really would have envisaged. The first bit of power is it got rid of that hierarchy. People that wouldn't necessarily have written anything on the whiteboard started writing messages on this online board. The other thing was the ability to reply to messages was huge, and it gave interactivity where there wasn't interactivity before. And the third thing that we really realised, which was amazing, was that people were starting to share stuff they wouldn't necessarily have put on the whiteboard. Let's say a link to a good website, or they might organise a staff night out where they wouldn't do that on a whiteboard. They may just put a short message that mightn't be that important enough, let's say, for a whiteboard, but it's good enough to get a bit of information. Maybe look out for this child on yard or something like that. So we found it accidentally much more powerful than a physical whiteboard.
And what do you believe the benefits are both to students, teachers and to parents of your social media activities?
I suppose the main reason I would use social media in school is because social media is part of life, and I just feel schools should just emulate life. Children are using social media in some way or another at home and outside of school, and they may be using it badly. But when people are on the internet, it's nearly like being in a car, that you don't really sense the dangers around you, or you feel a bit more powerful behind the mask of the internet, in that you would say things that you might not necessarily say to somebody's face. In the same way as if you're in your car, you're a lot braver when somebody overtakes you about kind of giving out about them, but you wouldn't necessarily say it to that person's face. So you're kind of teaching these skills that when you do something on the internet, you shouldn't put anything there that you wouldn't do in real life. And that's, I think, the main message of social media. So The second reason is actually to open up schools to the world as well. I think schools can be quite closed places in that not many people really know what's going on in the school. It's not that anyone doesn't trust that anything, that people don't think bad things are happening in schools or anything like that, but there's certainly they're closed, they're kind of closed areas where you send your most precious thing in the world into for 5 hours a day and they come out and generally don't know what's going on. So by being online, you can give parents a sort of a snapshot of what's going on in your school, be it photographs of little activities that are going on in the school. It could be they could join in a watch a live video feed if we were doing something like that, which we've done a couple of times. We can video conference with other schools, and again that opens up the two schools to each other, but it also opens up the two schools to the wider community. So all these kind of things really give us an extra dimension to schooling and opens it up to the wider world, and again builds up that kind of connections that are so important for 21st century life.